All right, guys. Next up, this next segment is going to be talking about the Big 12's wild year. Utah is new to the Big 12, so this was an experience for us as Utah fans, but also just Big 12 fans in general. One wild thing, and we all knew this heading into the Big 12, is that the possibility that the preseason predictions could be extremely wrong based on how deep this league is very real. And it really showed this year, guys. This year we had some crazy disparity in predicted wins to actual wins. So we're going to look at the Big 12 football media preseason poll, and we're going to match that up against the final Big 12 records to get an idea of just how wild of a year this was and just how little anyone could have expected this. Let's go ahead and dive in. All right, guys, and we're going to start by taking a look at the Big 12 preseason media poll rankings. So take a look here. You can see pretty much these five teams: Arizona, Kansas, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and Utah had a pretty big gap on the rest of the pack, right? Iowa State not too far off, but these were kind of the five, right, that had a pretty big gap. And Utah and Kansas State specifically, Oklahoma State was kind of right in the middle between the other two teams, but Utah and Kansas State were looked at to be huge favorites to win the conference. But let's take a look. So what I want to do, guys, is go from first to worst and where everyone had each team finishing and where they actually finished. So let's go ahead and take a look here. So Utah, you know, the number one projected team in the football media preseason poll, finished 5-7 on the year, 2-7 in conference play. Again, we talked about it, guys. A lot of rough breaks for Utah, but wild there for the number one projected team to wind up one of the worst teams in the league last year. Again, I think talent-wise, we weren't one of the worst teams in the league, but record-wise, we did finish that way. And then Kansas State was projected to be number two in the league. So, they're expecting Kansas State for being in the conference championship. But Kansas State actually wound up finishing, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, eighth in the conference. So from number 2 to number 8, they went 9-4 on the year and 5-4 in conference play. So struggled a decent amount in conference play, even though their overall record on the year does reflect a little better than that. Oklahoma State, this is going to be one of the most drastic ones. They were projected number 3, and if you look, they were kind of right outside of those top two in this voting. And you look here, guys, Oklahoma State finished last in the conference, going 3-9, but more importantly, 0 wins for Oklahoma State in conference play. That is wild. So just crazy stuff there. Looking at Kansas, that is going to be another one that really stands out. Kansas was projected to finish 5th or 4th in the conference, and you can see here that they looked like a really good team this year, right? With Jalen Daniels, it looked like it was going to be awesome, but they really struggled. Again, they went 5-7 just like Utah, and they actually went 4-5 in conference play, so a little better in conference than Utah, but overall in the season just struggle. Arizona, another team that fell from grace, they were projected to finish 5th. And they wound up finishing 4-8 on the year and 2-7 in conference play. So even worse than Utah. And, a lot of people, myself included, had Noah Fafita as one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. At least with Utah, you have the Cam Rising excuse, which, that excuse is out the window. No more Cam Rising talk in upcoming years. But that's why we were projected to be so high, and he played one game and he was injured. But Arizona, they had their guy. They had their quarterback, and they weren't able to get it done. And then what I'm going to do is, obviously, there's a bunch of teams in here we could talk about, but what I want to do, guys, is go down to these bottom teams and tell you where they finished, because I think that makes things a little more interesting. So looking at teams, you know what, we could poke it a little. I'm gonna go through each team, but I'm going to do a little bit of rapid fire here. Iowa State projected to finish 6th. And they finished 2nd in the Big 12, 7-2 in conference play, 11-3 on the year. West Virginia, West Virginia is right about where they were supposed to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they finished ninth, but they were projected to be seventh. So about where they were projected to be. So good call there. TCU overperformed a decent amount. TCU finished sixth, 8-5 overall, 6-3 in conference play. So pretty decent there for TCU. Colorado well overperformed. They were projected to finish 11th. They went 9-4, 7-2 in conference play. Baylor 8-5 overall, 6-3 in conference play. They were projected, and that puts them at fifth in the conference, where they were projected to be 13th. Cincinnati did about where they were expected, or actually a little better than expected. 5-7, 3-6 in conference play. Then Houston, I skipped BYU. All right, that's a fun one too. BYU is a great example. So BYU finished third, and they were expected to be 13th, so 10 spots above where they were expected to be. 11-2 overall record, 7-2 in conference play, due to a devastating defense that caused a ton of turnovers. Then going on to Houston. Houston, they did a little better than expected, but still towards the bottom. 4-8 overall, 3-6 in conference play. And this is obviously the one that stands out the most, guys. Arizona State, they were projected to finish last in the conference. They were the number one team in the Big 12, 11-3 record, 7-2 in the Big 12. Went to the CFP and almost pulled it off. They were a 4th and 13 away from pulling it off against Texas. Heartbreaker loss for all Big 12 fans. I think we all wanted them to win that game. So tough loss there. But that is the Big 12, guys. What a wild season it was. I'm sure we will be in for another shocker this year. A fun pop question, if you made it this far in the video, guys, is who is this year's Arizona State? Who is this year's team that everyone's kind of counting out? Everyone's thinking they don't have a big shot, but is going to really surprise people and really make a statement. I'm excited to hear your thoughts, guys. But that was the Big 12 preseason versus actual rankings for the year 2024.